I am here at the Second City for the press conference of John Candy, I Like Me. We heard from the family and producers of the documentary. It was lovely, filled with memories and lively moments of John Candy. I will insert those clips after of the Q&A, but this is just a very special location to be. We were in the John Candy Box Theatre here in Toronto celebrating Canadian comedy.
You know, when I'm standing backstage at Dave Letterman back in the day, which was the most fun talk show to do because it was dangerous. You never know what's going to happen. I would stand backstage thinking like, come on. Where are you? Where's the guy? And the curtains would open and he'd be there. He'd be there. You'd always be there. You know, and John, I feel like had that. I don't know that. I feel that though. That's how I saw him. And I think he's beautiful. I think John is really quite beautiful, and there were so many people back then. I was saying to Colin earlier that I was sitting at a table 20-something years ago here in Toronto with Norm Macdonald, Bob Saget, and Chris Farley. We were at a four-top, and we were having lunch, and all those guys are gone, and all those guys had their own kind of versions of coping mechanisms, and you know, some dangerous, some not. It's amazing how we canonize the comedian or the guy that, you know, made us laugh for so many years posthumously, not so much in the moment, much more posthumously. And that thing Chris mentioned that we released, I don't know, 8-9 years ago online, really showed me, like, that was so instructive, because I was like, wow, people really grab on and care about this man deeply still. And there's a whole generation of people that haven't seen him yet, and I'm excited for them to check. It took a long time because most documentaries, you're looking for this flip side. And this documentary does have a flip side, it's just not evil. You know, it's actually a flip side about a person that, you know, struggled with things that everyone struggles with. And, you know, filtered that through the prism of joy. And I think that that's why there hasn't been a proper documentary. That's why I wanted Bill so badly, because he was like, you can't do a documentary on John Candy. He's unimpeachable. I lived with him. I know. You know, he's never done anything wrong, except one thing.
The bad pitch for the documentary would be, you know, when you think of overweight actor who died too young, you think of guys that unfortunately passed away from a drug overdose. And John didn't. John passed away because he had a bad heart. And there's a difference there. And so that launching point then went, okay, well, if there's not some nefarious reason that he passed away, what else is there? And it turned out that John's relatability, his everyman qualities, were so detailed and so genuine that he suffered from things that everyone suffers from. And that is actually worth examining and looking at. That to me seemed like such an engaging story and something that I had not seen before.
And what were the biggest challenges in cutting it down?
The film will always reveal itself over time. And so with docs, it's like making a house where all of your elements are already on fire. What you need to do is you need to just sort of like throw everything together just to make sure that you have an A to Z story. You see what I did there? A to Z?
Was that
Amazon, yep, Bezos.
Yep, I'm gonna get
just got his wings.
5% off of my Prime membership because of that. But by assembling the story that way and said, okay, that's the road, great. Now let's break this thing up entirely and let's really sort of start brand new and find what is the most engaging way to tell that story. And because oftentimes that's not just from A to Z. There was a lot, and the editing process definitely took a lot of time. Sometimes there were some roads that didn't lead anywhere, and then we needed to come back around. But that is the process. That is what it is. And I've found that the most successful way to go about that is to assemble as many people as you can that all have great taste that can bring something to the table. And I had this great added bonus. You know, my producer here also is incredibly nuanced in screenwriting, editing, telling story, knowing what something needs, knowing what is lacking. And so...
Shameless. I'll call anyone.
And he will call anyone saying, hey, we need this, we need that. So it was a long process, but I never really looked at the clock. I didn't worry about the clock. It was really more about, hey, is this feeling right?
Did anybody say no?
No. Nobody said no, but there was, I mean, look, Bill Murray's not easy. I mean, that's a...
Hard to get.
Oh,
He said no, but
God.
he definitely didn't say yes.
Yeah, no, he didn't say no, but he didn't say yes. My kid got him, I think, in the end. I sent him a desperate plea. It's desperate when you switch to video for a message. Where I'm like, Bill, I'm running out of time, of course, existentially, because death will find me someday. But I'm also running out of time on this doc. And I was lying. I wasn't running out of time. I'd run out of time 2 weeks ago. Like, it was over. And my kid woke up, my 2-year-old son woke up at like 11:30 at night to show me his Jingle Bells shirt. And then I said, I'm in the middle of it. I'm trying to send a video to Bill. Tell Bill to do the interview. And he went, do the interview, Bill. Like, all angry, like. And I said, well, you say no to a child like that, and I don't know what kind of monster you are. And the next thing I know, he was doing it, and I promised that the child would not attend, and he would be neutralized.
Ivan Reitman once told me that when they set up to shoot Stripes on day one of the shoot, they still didn't know if Bill was going to do the movie. Why do you think it is important for us to tell the stories of who we are as Canadians, and Canadian stories?
Well, because I think Canadian stories are distinct in so many ways, and they're not distinct because they're not American. That's the thing that people sort of fall for. New Zealand, sure. I mean, we're not Australian, get it. But Canada is got its own kind of culture, its own kind of vibe. I can meet a Canadian, even if they're hiding their accent, and I know you're from somewhere, probably Regina, maybe Moose Jaw, but definitely Saskatchewan. There's something there that is a camaraderie, an ability to kind of laugh at oneself. To me, it was something I utilized everywhere, every chance I got. You still see it in guys all the way up. Dan Aykroyd, very proud Canadian. John was incredibly proud Canadian, as am I. And I remember when I went to see Dan Aykroyd, who was another, not a no, but very hard to find. I mean, a couple months. And I finally get a hold of him. And he goes, I'll tell you what, kid, you're going to fly up here, you're going to have dinner with me, you're going to spend the night, next morning, we'll do the interview, and you get the fuck out. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. And
Sounds like a horror short right there.
It does, and it was one of the best nights of my life. I was at his home. He picked us up at the airport in his 1994 Lincoln Town car. I think he stole it from Grosse Pointe Blank, one of my favorite movies, and drove us to his place out in the woods out there in Ontario. And next thing I know, I'm driving around in his 1920 Pierce automobile, which was amazing in and of itself. But just his entire home is just like a museum. Just incredible, and so gracious. Just wanted to make sure everyone was comfortable. Very, again, Canadian, right? Just everyone comfortable. Had to check the shower in every room. I mean, we were filmed through a 4 at that point. Colin was shooting, so I got to do 3 or 4 of the interviews where he did the other 97. But I did get Dan and I did get Bill. And those were thrills for me. John is the spirit of Canada. You don't have to look for that. I mean, I think it's a mistake to try to. It's a rookie error. Even in a scripted film, you listen to the movie, and the movie will speak to you. Sometimes it'll yell. If you're prepared, you'll really hear it. And John's all over it. I think you'd be better qualified to answer that question. I think John is the spirit of Canada.
I'm the lone American here, but I can sing "O Canada," both versions, and I can name all of the Canadian football teams, including both Rough Riders.
Oh, wow, great. Wow.
So I
With the space and without the space.
correct.
Honorary.
Correct. So I feel honorary in that way. For me, here's the thing. For me, it was a non-issue. John is John. John is Canadian. Canada is John. It's all part and parcel. It's all the same. And so the only thing that we needed to do was just showcase who John was, and everything would come from that. Everything that would follow. And so if by any miracle someone sees this and says, wow, this is the spirit of Canada, this is it, that's all because of John.
What can an artist learn about how to be better at their craft from the work that John contributed and that you can see in this doc?
In his intro to Second City, that story is actually really compelling because a lot of people would think of comedy and improv as where you're talking a lot, but he listened in his very first audition, and that's what caught the eye of Joe Flaherty and the people at the time of Second City. And so it was his ability to listen and then adapt from there. So our dear friend Tino Insana also said improv just appears. Yeah. And I think when you're in those moments of performance if you're just kind of in the moment listening, and you just see what you do.
And our dad's attention to detail and reality, and like when he would be on a stage where there is not a single prop, you could feel like you're in a room and know where exactly everything is, because he knew where everything was. Like, he knew all the names of the books that were on his bookshelf, and all the cups and the glasses, and where pillows were, and like, he had it in his brain. Like, it was his world, and you felt that. So it was his reality. It was
What would he would do the thing where he would take the book, if he was improvising with somebody, he would take a book and he'd say, take it off the shelf and say, read this to me. And then the improviser would have to read it, and then he'd go, oh no, it's in Spanish.
Oh no! I always feel like those certain people, the gifted performers, of like LiDAR'd a room or something, and kind of just be there in the moment. And I often say to just pile on that question that young actors who come up and say, you know, how do I get into the business? What's the best thing? Is it drama school? And so drama school's great. I always say improv though. Improv, I mean, my God, because of listening.
Right.
It forces you to constantly listen and then react, not react with some sort of preconceived idea. So it's a beautiful way to learn how to perform. And I think those moments where he says, I like me, my wife likes me, you know, those are moments that just come out of nowhere because he's been listening to the moment. And I think it's beautiful. Also, speaking of the LiDAR, I once watched his dad eat a cheeseburger that wasn't there. Not even kidding. Unwrapped it. Have you ever seen him do that?
No.
Unwrapped it. Like, and every piece of it got some slop down a little bit, you know, the pinky got a little, you know. And it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like, this is miming. People make fun of mimes. This isn't, this man, now I have nothing but respect. I want to go through the Marcel Marceau catalog.
It's a craft.
It really
It's a
is.
craft.
No, genuinely.
For the two of you and your mom, relive some of this. Can you walk us through what that might have been? Because you can lose yourself in the momentum of a project.
Sure.
It's still your dad, and you're seeing these things.
I think that's also a testament to our parents and our mom and our dad being so grounded. So for me, wasn't getting lost in the project at all. Like, it was discovering more about myself, and I think Chris discovering.
I had a shed in the back of the house that I'd locked myself in, and there are photos. No,
That's how
I remember when we had a box of 8mm footage that had always just been there, and we got the opportunity to digitize it before we sent it off to get properly digitized. And when my mom and I were looking at that, I believe it was like Christmas footage '89, and when you see like a young version of yourself come on screen, and your dad is alive again, and your mom is younger, and your sister's there with you, it transports you in a way, and I just broke down into tears. It was, I knew at that moment this was going to be a really big undertaking. You guys were super duper helpful the whole way through, and I never felt like I was lost in any of it. It felt tethered to reality the whole way through. So.
But it was also, I think that there's a temptation to paint the sad clown. Right?
Sure.
It's very lazy and easy to do that, I think. But it's an incredibly nuanced person, and as are most people, you know, it's easy to sort of paint with one brush, but he was,
And I think that was always the objective for us as a family, to want to do a documentary on our dad. If we were going to do this, we wanted to make sure that we're working with people who understood nuance.
Ryan Reynolds in the back. No, sorry, that is my mom. No, I wonder what was it like for you guys sharing him? What is that like, and how do you feel about that now? Asking for a friend.
I think as you get older, you understand more that it's okay to share. As a kid, it's hard. Like I said, I would be in the crowd asking for an autograph from my dad, pretending like I was a part of it, just to get attention. But it wasn't really like he was ignoring me. It was just me being silly, but then also being like, okay, come on, let's move this along. For me, when I was younger, didn't quite understand it, but knew that it was okay to like, I was fine with sharing my dad with, you know, all of these amazing fans and friends and extended family, because I think our core family was so strong and so tight-knit. It felt it was okay. It wasn't like I was missing something. So there wasn't, I didn't feel like I had a gap. And then as I got older, I loved it because it also helped me fill that void of him being gone. Talking to so many people and hearing all of their stories was great for me, because there's so many people. I had to, at one point, I felt so bad. I was in Bloomingdale's, I was buying socks. There was a woman who saw my last name on the credit card, and she goes, "Oh, I love John Candy. When's his next film coming out?" Meanwhile, now he had already been passed like 10 years. And I was like, and I felt so bad that I had to tell her that he passed away. But it was she.
Is there another film?
There is right now. It's
coming out,
in a couple hours.
Yeah.
So
I really like that.
you would be happy to know that. But there's moments where I felt guilty that I was like, oh no, I have to tell them. And it didn't make me sad. It was just like, okay, I have to break the bad news to you. But then we had great conversations and we talk, and it was just, therapeutic.
There is something to be said, though. Both me and my producing partner, Sean Stewart, we're firm believers in our jobs as documentarians is not to ruin anyone's life. We want them to be not only proud of what the finished product will be, but we want the experience to be a positive one for them. That's like the most important thing for us. And so, before we even started this, that's why I wanted to make sure that I had that conversation with Chris and Jen, saying like, look, if we're gonna do this, like, I will take care of you, I will do that, but like, we need to agree that sometimes this is gonna be awkward, sometimes this is gonna be uncomfortable, but we need to be able to speak up and say that and have that agreement that we're all gonna jump off this cliff together. And I got you.
And you zeroed in on that quick. There's a temptation to make this movie an inexorable march to someone's passing. You started with it. And because this movie's about his life, not about his death. It's his life. And I thought that was really beautiful and stuck the landing.
At TIFF at Roy Thompson Hall, October 10th, when you can
Can I give
Prime
one
Video?
tiny shout out?
It is your film?
Cynthia Erivo,
Yes.
who covers Paul Young's Every Time You Go in the film, and it was such an unexpected thing. She was over at my apartment, and we were just talking about this, and I said, "Oh, that's a great song from Planes, Trains. That was used in Planes, Trains. Paul Young sings it. It's every time." And she goes, "Oh, yeah." And then she gets home, and I get a voicemail back. She goes, "I'm thinking about is it this one? I really like this one." And she just like sings up like a whole section of the song, just 1 minute long. And then finishes with, "Is that the one?" And you're just like, "Oh my God!" And I got on the phone and I was like, is there any way, Miserivo? She's like, "What, Miserivo? You fucking told me, what the fuck is wrong with you?" I was like, "Just the song." And she's like, yes. And she just, 2 weeks later, the most beautiful, she and Will Wells, producer Will Wells, had this version of of Paul Young's Every Time You Go that is just the most beautiful, heartbreaking thing I think I've ever heard in my life. I think I listen to it every single day. And it's right up there with a weird cut I have of a tragically hip song, or Downey, singing "Courage."
Really are Canadian.
I know.
Had to
I know.
the hip.
There are 2 songs every day right now that I listen to.
Kristen, Jen, Ryan, and Colin, and Rosemary, thank you all so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Kelly, Alex, tonight, thanks.
This just looks good enough to eat. Like that I am so excited to watch this on Prime. I admittedly don't know too much about John Candy, and I am kicking myself for not knowing as much Canadian comedy as I need to. We have a Canadian cast member on SNL now. Like, it's been so many years since that happened. I don't know, this makes me laugh. This brings me so much joy. Everyone's in this whole theater. Just, you can feel the love of Canada. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. We will be covering it more. Was it October? I will put the release date here. Thanks.
Boom, 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 boom.